I raised my daughters alone for 15 years, and I thought that meant something permanent. The early mornings, the sick nights. The budget spreadsheets were taped to the inside of a pantry door, the smell of burnt coffee at 4:30 in the morning before the first shift. The endless errands and school pickups and choir recitals where I never clapped first because I was holding the camera. I believed that kind of work fused people. I believed wrong. We were outside the family court the day the world turned. My daughters stood half a step away, a half step that looked like a mile, with my ex-wife hovering near a man in a suit that fit him like an apology. My older girl, Maya, stared across the atrium at the elevators, as if she had a plane to catch. My younger one, Lena, kept twisting a silver bracelet around her wrist. Their mother, Harper, curled a hand behind Victor Salazar's elbow like she was guiding a celebrity through a crowd. I tried to swallow. It tasted like coins. Me, are you sure about this? Maya, completely. Victor gets us. You do not. Lena, we are not children anymore, Dad. We need a father who can do more than say there is no money. Victor gave me a polite smile that felt like a shove. The clerk called our case. Inside, I said the words I was required to say. The judge asked my daughters if they understood the consequences of being adopted at 16 and 17. Maya said she had never been more certain of anything in her life. Lena said she finally felt seen. The judge signed. A wooden gavel tapped, and the sound reached past my ears into a place that had believed in permanence. They embraced Victor and Harper. Not one of them looked back. I had an urge to laugh. I did not. I walked into the men's room, locked a stall, and rested my head against cool metal that smelled of bleach and lemon soap. 15 years of being a yes in a world of expensive no. When I got home, I opened the old safe box and pulled a folder I had never allowed myself to touch. My mother's trust documents. I had skimmed them years ago, then buried them beneath tax returns and report cards. The language was dense. The number was not. $2 million is held for the benefit of my daughter's education and early adult life. It was my mother's way of compensating for a son who would always choose responsible over glamorous. She had made me promise not to touch it for myself. She had loved those girls fiercely. My throat closed again. I called the woman who had drafted the trust. Her name was Lan Nguyen. She had been my mother's friend longer than I had been alive. Lan, Adrian, I am sorry for what happened in court. Sit down before I tell you what I found. Me, I am sitting. Lan, your mother anticipated conflict. There is a clause. If the beneficiaries ever cease to be your legal dependents, the trust dissolves and vests in the biological parent named in Section 3. That is you. Me. That cannot be right. She would not cut the girls off. Lan. She did not cut them off, Adrian. She protected the legacy from control by outsiders. There is discretion for you to support them, but the legal ownership transfers to you upon adoption by another adult. She put it that way because she did not trust Harper. I held the phone away from my face and listened to nothing. The word that came to mind was not victory. It was a correction. The balance of a scale that had been weighted against me for years was tipping toward level. I logged into my accounts, my own savings, built a few dollars at a time, sat at $449,000. I stared at that number longer than I stared at the $2 million. It was the evidence of 15 years of patient refusal. The trust money would make headlines. My money was a whispered confession. I was not cheap. I was careful. Careful is not what raised my daughters. Work raised them. Work and repetition, and the willingness to be disliked for saying no to things that would have felt good for a minute and would have ruined us later. While I let that truth sit, my phone pinged with a new message from Lena. A photo. She and Maya leaned against a red coupe with a bow on the hood. Lena, Victor says this is for sharing once we both turn 18. He says we will not have to worry about buses or old sedans anymore. Maya, he believes in us. He believes in a future where we show up in style. I stared at the photo until the pixels looked like grains of salt. Then I powered on an old tablet that had lived in a kitchen drawer. It had been Maya's in 9th grade. I had wiped it once, but I must not have logged it out. Her cloud account loaded like it had been waiting. Photos, group chats, shared documents. I did not want to be this man, but the world had made me understand that wanting and doing were different things. I scrolled. 2 years of text threads poured through the glass. In one thread, Harper used phrases like, "Stop letting him make you feel small and you deserve experiences, not excuses." In another, Victor sent screenshots of destination hotels with captions like, This is what a real father provides. There were jokes about my old car. There were sneers at my habit of packing sandwiches in wax paper instead of buying burgers after school. There was a line from Maya that landed like a blade. I hate it when he shows up looking tired. He makes me feel poor. I put the tablet down and sat very still. I thought about calling them to shout. I did not. I called a different number. A friend of mine from church, Theo, did forensic accounting for a living. I gave him Victor's full name and as many details as I had. He did not ask why. He told me to give him a week. On day 3, I got a call from Harper's father. We had not spoken in almost a year. His voice sounded like cardboard, dry and angry. Mr. Alvarez. Adrian, are my granddaughters all right? I have not been allowed to see them. Harper says they are busy. That does not sound like my girls. Me. They are fine in the way a photo is fine. They glow. They do not warm. Mr. Alvarez. I heard from a cousin that there was a court date. Is it true? Me. It is. He went silent long enough that I thought the call had dropped. Mr. Alvarez. Then I am going to tell you something I should have told you sooner. Victor came to me a year ago and asked for a short-term loan for his business. I gave him $55,000. He has not paid a cent back. When I press him, he drags Harper into it. When I pressed harder, he stopped taking my calls. And I found papers in a drawer at Harper's house when I was there to water plants, insurance claim forms, fake medical reports. If a stranger saw them, they would say fraud. If a father saw them, he would say disaster. Me. Will you share copies with me? Mr. Alvarez. I already scanned them. Come by tonight. I will make you coffee, the kind you hate. I drove over at sunset. He handed me a folder that smelled like the bottom of an old toolbox. We did not speak much. When I left, he put a hand on my shoulder. It was the first time he had done that since the divorce. In the car, I stared at the copies until the text blurred. Diagnosis codes, altered dates, and an injury claim that matched a date when Victor had posted a video of himself lifting his nephew into a pool. I forwarded the scans to Theo. Theo called back the next morning. Theo, your ex-wife's new husband is a financial dumpster fire dressed in silk. Back taxes, 2 lawsuits, private lender notes at rates that make my stomach hurt, and a pattern of insurance claims that are, how do I say this? Bold. Me. Bold is not the word I would have used. Theo, you asked for facts. Here is a fact. He needs money fast. He probably assumed the trust was his way to stabilize. If he maneuvered an adoption to access it, he made a legal mistake he does not understand yet. I thanked him and sat with the thought that clarity is cruel and kind at the same time. Harper texted me that afternoon. Harper. The girls want a proper celebration for the adoption. They think a simple dinner would be nice. Maybe something downtown that does not smell like fryer oil. Me. I will host it. They deserve something memorable. Harper. I am surprised. In a good way. Try not to make it awkward. Me. I will do more than try. I booked the ballroom at the old Conrad Hotel, where my mother had taken me to look at wedding cakes the month before she got sick. It strained something in me to confirm on a number I would have called irresponsible last year. But the money was there, and purpose is an acceptable currency. I chose a Saturday 3 weeks out. I called a rental company for screens and projectors. I asked a friend from my first job to act as a photographer. I ordered floral arrangements identical to the ones my mother had loved. I asked a tailor to finish a suit he had pinned on me 2 months before I put it off as indulgent. The week before the event, Victor called me. Victor, I am not going to argue about the party. It is generous of you. I do want to talk about practicalities. The girls have educational accounts. I would like to get access to manage them. Everyone agrees that it is best. Me. Educational accounts. Victor. The trust your mother set up. I will need contact information for the attorney. Me. Lan Win. I will send her office line. Victor. Appreciate it, Adrian. We both want what is best for Maya and Lena. Me. We do. I hung up and texted Lan. 10 minutes later, she called me, laughing like a bell chime. Lan. He just left a message. I will call him back. I will use small words, so he understands the law that now lives in his shadow. The next day, I received a single sentence from her. He knows. Brace. What do you do when you know the play and the other team keeps running it? You let them. That week, a complaint arrived at my door. A social worker stood beneath my porch light. A police officer beside her like punctuation. Social worker. Mr. Cole, We received a report of long-term financial neglect and emotional abuse of minors. We would like to ask you some questions and review documentation. Me. Come in. I have been expecting you. I handed them 3 binders with spine labels that said, Health, Education, Activities. Inside were receipts and bills, and forms, private health insurance summaries, tuition invoices stamped paid in full, records of sports team fees, music lessons, dental work. The officer flipped a page with a fingertip and whistled. Officer, Mr. Cole, this is meticulous. Me. I had to be. It was the only way I could say yes as often as I did. Social worker. The complaint includes statements from the minors. Can you think of a reason they would sign something like this? Me. I can think of several. None is kind to the adults around them. Officer. Do you have any recordings of conversations that would help establish motive? Me. I have a call with Victor where he asks for access to the trust and says his lawyer believes he now controls it. I also have photos of messages and the insurance papers you will want to see. They took copies. The officer's card said he had a son. It made sense. Before leaving, he said something I will not forget. Officer, people try to turn the system into a cudgel sometimes. It is messy. It is also survivable when you keep records like you do. Keep your head clear. I slept for the first time in a week. On Saturday evening, the ballroom smelled like gardenias and new carpet. My friend Naomi from the plant nursery had arranged white flowers in tall glass cylinders that looked like rain pipes. The lights were low, the screens were bright. A quartet played something people call dinner music when they want to feel civilized. When I walked in with a woman named Isabel, whom I had met at the pool where I swim after work, Victor visibly recalculated me. Harper blinked like she was waking from a long nap. My daughters looked at me, and then at the room, and then at Victor. Maya, I did not know you knew how to do something like this. Me, you do not know a lot of things about me. We sat. We ate. I told one story about the time my mother burned a pie and pretended she had meant to make toast pie. People laughed. Victor laughed too loudly. After dessert, I took the small stage. The projector hummed behind me. On the screen, a photo of 2 little girls in rain boots appeared, their arms around a man holding a broken umbrella. The quartet stopped playing. It took exactly 5 seconds for the room to go quiet enough for the humming to sound like bees. Me. Thank you for coming to celebrate a change that has been framed as a fresh start. I want to honor the past before we all pretend this is uncomplicated. For 15 years, I was the father of Maya and Lena. I fed them and ferried them and said no to more things than any of us enjoyed. I did it because I believed in a future we could actually afford. I did it because my mother taught me that love is sometimes a list and sometimes a receipt. Tonight I would like to share a few lists and a few receipts. The first slide showed my spreadsheet for the year Lena needed braces, the year Maya needed asthma meds twice a month, and the year the school increased tuition by 9% without warning. The second slide showed the health binder open to a page that had a total in the corner. The third showed a family budget with categories that every parent knows: rent, utilities, food, fuel, savings, tiny box for leisure that we handled with walks and library cards. The fourth showed 2 college savings calculators and the portion I had been on pace to cover if things held. Victor shifted in his chair like it had become very narrow. Me. Many people here believe there is a large educational fund that will take care of everything. That is partially true. There is a trust my mother established. It comes with rules. Here is the rule that matters. I put the clause on the screen. The wording was formal. The meaning was plain. Me. Because my daughters are no longer my legal dependents, the trust is no longer held for their benefit. It vests in the biological parent. That is me. As of the date of adoption, the balance of $2,100,000 is legally mine to manage. I did not make this rule. My mother did. She made it because she feared a scenario where other adults might try to use her money as leverage. Tonight proved she was right. Harper stood, then sat, then hissed something at Victor without turning her head. Victor stared at the clause, like it would rearrange itself if he glared hard enough. Me. I want to be clear. I am not obligated to spend a cent on anyone in this room. I am also not obligated to gloat. I will not. But I am obligated to the truth. So we will spend 10 minutes with the truth. The screen split. On the left, a picture of Maya and Lena, leaning against the red coupe with a bow. On the right, a text thread that made the gift look like a contract. Me. Here is the promise of style. Here is the price of that promise. I clicked. A slide appeared with 2 charts Theo had prepared. One showed debts to private lenders with interest rates that made people squint. One showed a timeline of insurance claims with sums that formed a neat pattern. I spoke without heat. Me. This is Victor's situation. This is the math of a man who needs access to someone else's money. This is why an adoption scheduled 1 week after his second lender demanded payment makes practical sense. Victor stood. He did not speak. His face did. Me. Sit, Victor. It gets worse. I projected the scans from Mr. Alvarez. People read silently for a few seconds. Then you could hear the room remembering the sound of its own breath. Me. I admire initiative. I do not admire fraud. I will let the authorities decide what this is. From the corner, Mr. Alvarez's voice came like gravel. Mr. Alvarez, I loaned you $55,000. You held my granddaughters between us like a bargaining chip. You told my daughter to keep me away so I would not see you for what you are. I see you now. Harper stared at the tablecloth and pinched it until the fabric made a small tent between her fingers. I changed slides again and put up the first page of the complaint I had received that week. The letterhead from the state agency, the accusation of neglect, and the signatures of my daughters on the attached statements. I did not look at them while I spoke. Me. Someone here thought a false complaint would frighten me into sharing money I do not owe. Someone forgot that the truth is not only a feeling. It is a folder. The investigators have seen mine. Maya finally spoke. It was almost a whisper. Maya, we did not know. We were told this was how to correct years of damage. Lena, we were told you chose to make us small. Me, you were told stories. I was counting receipts. Silence. The kind that is not empty. The kind that is full of broken narratives. I took a breath and brought up the last slide. It showed a photo of my mother holding both girls on a park bench. The girls are tiny and furious because she would not let them have ice cream before lunch. My mother is laughing so hard at their scowls that her eyes are closed. Me, my mother set the rules. I am going to honor them. I am also going to honor what I know about love. It is not a carnival prize you win by making a spectacle. It is a long choreography of boring moves. It is also a rescue line you sometimes throw after someone has cut themselves loose. Victor, the creditors in this room know where to find you. Harper, the lawyer who structured those claims, has a name that appears in other files. They will be read. Maya and Lena, you will leave here with the knowledge that the trust did not vanish. It returned to its source. If you ever want to petition that source for help, you will do so like adults with documentation and respect instead of entitlement and threats. The door is not closed. It just has a lock now. Isabel stood in the back, steady as a handrail. When I finished, I did not wait for applause. I thanked the staff, spoke quietly to the quartet, and walked out with Isabel while the room erupted into arguments and phone calls, and the kind of apologies that are mostly about the person speaking them. 8 months passed. Victor was indicted on 2 counts related to insurance claims and 1 related to lender fraud. He took a plea and started a sentence that will change the way he tells stories about himself. Harper cooperated and avoided prison, but she could not keep the job that required a clean record. Her messages to me ranged from fury to bargaining to brittle nostalgia. I changed my number after the final one that said you ruined everything we built. I did not reply that she had built the scaffolding and then pretended that gravity would not apply. I worked and slept and swam and cooked food that did not come from a microwave. I replaced my old sedan with a used wagon that felt like a ship with good bones. I went to Europe for the first time in my life and cried in a museum because a brushstroke looked like a breath. I met Isabel's parents and learned to play a card game that requires you to let go of perfect control. I invested a portion of the trust in an index fund my mother would have approved of. I moved 3 plants to a south-facing window and watched them become themselves. On a rainy Sunday, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Maya and Lena on the porch, damp and hesitant, like stray cats that want help but hate the word. They looked older. That is a small sentence for a large feeling. The teenager's sheen had dulled into something human. Maya. Hi, Dad. Me. Hello. Lena. We do not deserve to come inside, but if you let us, we will stand on the mat and say what we came to say. Me. Come in. Take off your shoes. They stepped in and stood with their toes on the tile. I handed them towels. They did not reject the kindness like they might have a year ago. They held the fabric like a borrowed mercy. Maya. We need to speak plainly. We believed a story in which you were the barrier and Victor was the bridge. We liked the way that story made us feel. We did not check the math. Since the party, We have lived with math. Lena. Rent that comes every 30 days, whether you are tired or not. A credit card bill that does not care that someone else used the card. A manager who schedules you for closing and opening. We have learned that glamour is often a debt with glitter on it. Maya handed me a folder. Inside were spreadsheets, budgets, income and expense, notes about hours at a cafe downtown, a letter from a community college with tuition numbers highlighted, a plan that did not insult the future by asking it to pretend. Lena, we are not asking for gifts. We are asking for a loan with terms. We wrote an agreement. 3% interest. Repayment begins 6 months after graduation. We will maintain a 3.5 and send you monthly budget updates. If we fail, the agreement converts to payments immediately. If we succeed, we will celebrate with a pizza you do not have to make. Maya, we brought our last 8 months of bank statements. We highlighted the stupid purchases, so you know we did not pretend to be perfect. I read silently. I nodded. They did not fill the silence with excuses. They had learned a different choreography. Me. I will send you a contract drawn by an attorney. It will look like something a bank would write. You will read every line twice. You will ask questions. If you sign, we begin. Maya exhaled a breath that sounded like a year, leaving her body. Maya, thank you for not slamming the door. Me. I took the door off myself at that party. I keep a key now. That is different from building a wall. They smiled, small and real. They stayed for dinner. We cooked rice and beans and roasted vegetables. We did not open anything with a bow on it. Before they left, Lena stood in the hall and looked at a framed photo of my mother. She did not cry. She said something better. Lena. She knew. Me. She did. The following week, I had Lon draft the agreement. It looked like a finance textbook. Maya texted me that she was proud of how boring and responsible it was. We scheduled a video call every other Sunday. They show me their grades and their budgets. They also show me the faces they make while they wash dishes or sort laundry. Pictures I never thought I would be grateful to receive. The loan is dispersed in 2 equal amounts tied to course load and academic progress. When Maya texted me a photo of an A on a statistics exam, I smiled in a way that felt like my face had remembered an old language. Harper tried to insert herself twice through mutual friends. When that failed, she sent an email from a new address with a subject line that said, "We are still a family." I read it on a park bench and then deleted it. Family is a verb. She had conjugated it past tense. One night, I sat on the floor of my living room with the folder of trust documents, my budget notebooks, and a photo of my mother in her garden in July. I thought about legacy, what it is and what it is not. It is not a car with a bow on it. It is not a meal at a place with cloth napkins, once a month, and the smell of resentment in the parking garage. Legacy is a habit that outlives the person who taught it. It is a way of seeing numbers as a kind of lyric that helps you write a life that scans. Isabel asked me once if I regretted being so hard on the girls. I told her I regret that they had to fall to understand gravity. I do not regret being the ground. This morning, Lena sent a photo of the wrist that used to hold a silver bracelet she twisted when she was nervous. The bracelet is gone. In its place is a small watch with scratches on the face. She wrote a caption underneath it. Lena, it was $15 at a thrift store. It keeps time. It does not lie about what time it is. I think you would like it. I wrote back, me, I do. If you ask me whether I forgive them, I would say forgiveness is not a switch. It is a calendar. It happens a day at a time. And the days you think you have finished it, something small will ask you to start again. If you ask me whether I love them, the answer is easy. I did not stop. I changed the terms. I moved love from a word that can be used as leverage to a practice that can be measured and renewed. What I learned is this. You can raise children alone and be called cheap while doing it. You can lose your title and still be the only adult in the room. You can throw a party that looks like revenge and know in your bones that it was actually a reading of the ledger. You can carry the weight of being a man nobody claps for because your work is boring. In the end, the boring work is what saves people. The exciting stuff gets you a red car and a headache. When I stand at the kitchen counter at 4:30 now, the coffee smells less like coins and more like permission. I sometimes take my cup outside and watch the streetlight switch off as the sun decides to do its job. I used to worry that I would never stop being angry. I am not angry anymore. I am occupied. The garden needs trimming. The budget needs updating. The girls need a call on Sunday night, not to be rescued, but to be reminded that the lock on the door is there for a reason and that they know the code. This is not a triumphant ending. It is a correct one. The numbers add up. The records are in order. The future looks like something we can afford. And when I think of my mother, I do not hear the gavel anymore. I hear the clink of a spoon against a mug, the sound of someone who knew that love is long and that, if you are patient, it returns to its source like water.